Welcome to the Too Busy to Eat show. This is Greg Zaffalato. I am the host of this show, and I'm also the founder and CEO of Too Busy to Eat, the nutrition product company. We make the very best and healthiest protein bars, and we have other products on the way, but we have grass-fed whey protein bars that are delicious. So you got to try them out. Go to toobusytoeat.com. That's toobusytoeat.com. And if you use the coupon code or discount code TBTE show, you can get 20% off of any product on our website. So check it out. Use the coupon code or discount code and get a discount and try out the products. Now, for today's show, I am really excited to share with you Mark Fisher from Mark Fisher Fitness out of New York City. Just a unique individual, somebody that is out there really trying to help people and help a lot of different people and provide an environment that is unique and reaches a group of people that may not like the traditional fitness facilities, but his reach and his influence is expanding rapidly. You can find more about him at markfisherhumanbeing.com. That's markfisherhumanbeing.com. And I am really excited to have you listen to this interview because he's fascinating. His insights into fitness, nutrition, and community building are fascinating also. So let's get on with the show. Well, welcome, Mark. I'm so excited to have you on the Too Busy to Eat show. Thanks for taking the time to come on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
This is great. Now, getting to know what you do. I mean, it's a fascinating, fresh approach to fitness and exercise and lifestyle. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about how your Mark Fisher Fitness came to be.
Yeah, so I'll give you the shortest version of the story I can, which is basically, as will not surprise anybody who takes one look at the website. I am part of the fitness industry that did not come from the world of sports, athletics. Right. And I was someone that when I grew up, I was, like a lot of people had a lot of issues around my body. And in my case, I was very, very thin and I had a lot of insecurities around feeling weak. And I never considered myself particularly athletic. So when I first got into weightlifting, it was purely out of self-loathing. And hope that, maybe I could like myself more and perhaps girls would like me if I were more muscular. Right. So my journey into fitness was not a very natural. I was never someone who's like, oh, I love to be active. And that just really wasn't my journey. So what's interesting is although I had a sort of awkward, bumpy entrance into training, I came to quite like it. And over the course of many years, I saw what training and eating properly and fitness, what kind of effect it had not only on my body, but ultimately on my mindset and how I approached my life. And throughout my 20s, I was an actor living here in New York City, and I started developing this niche of people that were a lot of people in the theater and just generally people that didn't identify as a traditional gym person. Okay. And I've found that I really loved and seemed to have a knack for taking fitness and nutrition concepts and teaching them in a way that was accessible and fun and kind of bizarre and obscene and vulgar. And essentially, that was sort of I developed this kind of mini, I think, kind of cult following here in New York City. And my best friend from a high school community theater group, rightfully, I think, saw an opportunity and convinced me that we should make a real go at it and try to have a real big boy business. Yeah. And that was a little over 5 years ago. And he was right. We seem to really kind of hit this nerve here in New York City and have developed a really robust, now 2 locations of this fitness brand that its tagline is ridiculous humans, serious fitness.
Yeah, love it.
And we take that quite seriously. So we've sort of made a name for ourselves working with people that maybe aren't necessarily gym people, or maybe they are gym people, but like the fact that we do it in such a crazy, colorful, insane, loving, vulgar, community-minded, nurturing, weird way.
That's fantastic. How do you bridge that? I love the tagline: ridiculous humans, but serious fitness. Now, how does that mesh together?
Um, well, quite naturally for me.
Well, how do you mesh it together for everybody else? I mean, because you talk a lot about community. I mean, it sounds like a great place to come and feel part of, right? So how do you develop that?
Yeah, I mean, I think like any business, it always starts very artistically with a lot of intuition, and a lot of you just kind of try stuff and see what people respond to, and share what feels authentic to you, and hopefully what you think other people will like. And then over time, you begin to codify that, and then you kind of turn that into some standards and some systems. And certainly, a place like MFF, it's a little bit of a negotiation because on the one hand, we want to provide a very consistent experience, but definitionally, our most sublime moments of weirdness can't really be codified because it begins to lose the appeal if you're like, oh, this is always the part where the llama comes out. Right. So, we try to create a space where people feel inspired to be authentically their full self in the service of other people, and I would note, interestingly enough, I think the great customer service is similar in some ways too, in that you look to create these kind of like base standards. But ideally, if you really want magic in customer service, definitionally, the things that you do that blow people's minds are things that are not systemized. So, it's definitely a bit of a an art and a science for sure.
Well, that's what my question was going to be like. Well, what do you expect as you walk into your facility? What can you expect? I guess it varies, right?
Yeah, it really does. And I mean, the reality is like most of the time, we have a joke here on the team. It does seem there's a little bit of like a really wonderful, hilarious version of the telephone game going on in the industry where, we'll be at conferences and a speaker will be like, yeah, the Mark Fisher fitness team is back there. In their gym, they release monkeys that are rapid and they're finishers. They strip you naked and you run. And then, you come in, there's like, trainer in a cape doing a deadlift. The reality is like the space looks crazy. Many of the trainers do dress up when they feel inspired, and when they don't, they don't. And certainly there's, a lot of like just silliness and shenanigans. But, the core service we offer is like a fitness product, right? So you're coming in and we're trying to give like, in addition to a very nurturing, fun, supportive environment, we're also looking to give a really best-in-class fitness experience that's going to, honor all like the laws of physiology to make sure people are like moving better and getting stronger and avoiding injury, and feeling both challenged but successful and accomplished.
Right. Because you're. I mean, everything I've heard about you and the product that you're talking about is serious fitness. Like people are doing things correctly, they're doing things intensely, they're doing things right, and they're getting healthier and fitter through your facilities. So that part you really take serious. I mean, there's a science to it. You have a background in the training field.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we really strive to not take ourselves seriously, but we take the work like very, very seriously. Yeah. I think the most surprising thing probably for anybody in the industry would probably come to like one of our trainer team meetings and watching us just like fight, like passionately debating some point of fitness minutia. When you're on the surface, we probably we're a bunch of, yahoos running around in Speedos.
Right. Yeah. Because like you said, they have the telephone game where it's been exaggerated and what happens, and then they're not expecting a serious and educated people developing these programs. And
totally. And to some extent, that was by design. I mean, there was definitely a different moment where I was like, looks like I'll just light any respectability on fire. And if anything, I have been very surprised the number of people that I, really looked up to and considered mentors that have embraced our approach. But, for me, it was like from day one, it was so clear to me that like what, my goal just wasn't really like status in the industry. Like, obviously I prefer people to like me than not like me, but my goal wasn't necessarily impressing other fitness professionals. My goal was speaking to a very specific person that I don't think the rest of the industry is speaking to. Right. And the reality is, for better, for worse, when you're, a fitness consumer, they're not going to be in a place where they're really going to be like judging you on, your particular interpretation of spinal mechanics in a deadlift, they just know like, am I feeling better? Like, are you nice to me? Do you know my name? So, but there's no reason you can't do both.
No, absolutely. So and on the fitness side, what would be, because you're blending this serious part of fitness, what would be your philosophy fitness wise?
Yeah, so we tend to do a lot of our clients come in, they're what's called general population.
Okay.
So very explicitly, we don't do a lot of like sports performance enhancement.
Right.
That's, I think, a lot of my my professional training is in that, but that's just not, what most of our clients are looking for. A little bit sometimes with dancers. So for the most part, we say we give people health and hotness.
Okay.
Right. We want people like moving well. We want
Yep.
them feeling good. A lot of people come to us with aesthetic goals. So when you're looking, we have essentially two main core offerings. One is classes,
Okay.
which is what's called we've called metabolic resistance training, right? Or like you're doing strength training,
Right.
for like maximal calories, where you're using not like maximal loads, but we want to use some weights. You're using incomplete rest periods, and you're getting a great cardiovascular workout. Right. While training your muscles and movement quality and strength. Yeah. And that's mostly kettlebells and body weight. Okay. Then we have what we call semi-private training. And that's basically just what you expect from any good personal training studio. We do up to 3 people at a time. So we do ours like in a small group, but everyone is doing, an individualized program, and the same thing every other gym is doing, just getting people strong at the core lifts and, learning how to squat and push and pull and then, over time, helping people, hopefully find goals that they're interested in pursuing, and then supporting them. Because one thing we have seen as a trend, people often start at Mark Fisher Fitness with aesthetic goals, and that's great. And we take a lot of pride in helping people get there. But I know that we probably get most boned up when we watch people, their goals begin to transform over time from, I have it like this sort of aesthetic goal to, and that remains part of it. But the goal, I think, for a lot of them becomes like this is a practice, right? Like this is an expression of who I am. It's part of my self-care regime. Right. And my goal is to be the best me that I can. So it's very satisfying to watch ninjas begin to explore, even performance goals. So a lot of our ninjas become very serious students of the game, to the point where we recently created a program, a transformation program that wasn't a physical transformation. It was like, not to get super nerdy, but it was like, undulating periodization, easy strength style. It was like a serious nerdy program.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like so gratified that we had that many people in our community. But I think it makes sense, right? Because the reality is, there's a certain point where I think when people want more gamification, right, there's an opportunity, I think, to offer them other ways to experience movement and experience fitness.
Absolutely. Yeah. And have you seen that over time? Like your initial push, right, is to make these people that maybe not fit into a normal, or not be comfortable in a normal gym environment. Have you seen that kind of grow and spread to where now those people are comfortable? They're moving along like you have moved along, where now they're just diving in to the deep into the training. I mean, did you see that evolution over the years?
Totally. Yeah. It's funny. Like I say, and I'll tell you this number, I don't even know is really like hyperbole, that like 1% of our clients leave to become trainers. Right. Like a very and it's really fascinating. Again, like I said, it's very gratifying. And wow, and again, at this point, like, listen, we have people that join MFF that are already pretty fit and just like want to hang out with us because we're weird. But again, there's a particular satisfaction when you take someone that comes in like so not sure about lifting weights and a history of issues with their body, and watch them slowly fall in love with the process. Yep. And begin to love fitness as it's no longer a means; it becomes an ends in and of itself. And I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, it becomes just part of their life, and they want to absorb it as much as possible. Yeah, that's really cool. I love how you call your people ninjas. That's pretty cool. Where did that come from?
Probably should have said that. It's funny. I don't know. Weirdly, I kind of speak in tongues when I teach, and I guess I used to be like, "You guys are nailing this. You're ninjas." And then they just started referring themselves as ninjas. And then when my business partner came on, he kind of codified, and he was like, well, I guess we're calling them ninjas.
The ninja, hey, you're making it fun. It's serious, but you're making it fun and light, and making people feel welcome.
And I think there's something like aspirational about that image, and it's interesting. A dear friend of mine, Coach Steve Ledbetter, very, very bright guy, very like well-trained, like academic guy. Yeah. And he was like, oh, that's a shared superordinate. And I was like, cool. Okay. So I guess it is like a psychological thing, right? Because not only you're giving them this aspirational identity, but you're giving them, this thing that unites them, this sort of like tribe where like, this is a new version of myself that is someone who is a ninja, right? Someone who is like, has volition and agency in their life.
Yeah. But that came from, that wasn't that came organically through just being authentic. You just doing what you do, and it came out, which is so much more powerful, you know?
And I'm sure I say lots of crazy things about like Vikings and dinosaurs and whatever, but for whatever reason, you know, like 10% of what I say, will like sort of like capture people's imagination. Yeah. And I think we've done a good job of really listening to the ninjas, because I do think, our culture is like very colorful. And I do think it's really driven by the ninjas. Like I often think it was like, we're just constantly offering them these images and these sayings and these various things. And then the tribe will kind of organically like adopt a thing. And I think we're pretty astute at like listening to them, like, oh, unicorns was the same way. We never unicorns are our spirit animal. We were never like, it would be good for us, a unicorn.
Right.
It was just something, and it's sort of an MFF myth. No one's like quite sure where it started, but is something that feels right to us, but definitely was never like us sitting in a room being like, what would make marketing sense? Let's be unicorns.
But that's what's so cool, that there's things just developing, and there's really in the end, there's a kind of purpose behind it, but not artificially created, which is great with that.
Yeah, it's like a gym that's like secretly an art project that's like secretly like a human behavioral experiment.
Yeah, it's really, now that's what I keep going back to this, and I know a lot of this was done out of just a heart to create this environment, but a community. I know we can't quantify it or exactly what happened, but how do you develop? I know you make people feel welcome and you make it light, but is there other things you do as you develop this community to just bring people together to make them feel welcome, or is it just?
Yeah. They're it's like you said. I don't. I always think a community like culture, like those types of things. You can't. There's like gardening, right? And you can't ever do it directly. You just kind of create conditions for it,
right?
And I think. Certainly one part of that I think is like our like I think more broadly philosophically, I think like being open to that and setting intention for that has been a part of it. But just like specifically tactically, everything from, starting our classes with like a funny name game at the beginning of every class so people know each other's names, to training our entire team very in-depthly as life coaches. So we're able to have like a certain type of like real conversation with people who are struggling, to looking for opportunities to spend time and create like sub-communities within the broader MFF, both via social media and via like parties and gatherings outside the clubhouse. So we have like looked to like create that space and drive that, right? Because I think, we have a 6-week transformation program called Snatched in 6 weeks. And I think in many ways that was where we like accidentally did it. Because even then in the beginning, when I started MFF, I wasn't like, oh, I want to create, this like, and it's hard to remember, but like at least when I started Snatch, at any rate, I was like a personal trainer who was reluctantly doing group classes, even though they were so dumb because I was such a good trainer. I'm too good to do group class. I'm a good trainer. And then I was like, oh, I'm a real dummy. This is much better than what I was doing. But it just sort of happened organically, and I think, another specific thing that we did that I think other people can use if, really probably in any industry, is because people are going through an experience together in a cohort, where they were having the shared experience together. And fitness, you're lucky in that, like for a lot of them, particularly for our ninjas, it's inherently an emotional thing. You're dealing with like some demons. If you're getting body image stuff and nutrition, and I think that, having that shared experience that we sort of guide people through means that their bonds unite them to each other. It unites them to the clubhouse. And it's an interesting thing, because as we grow, it's we keep growing, right? And that's been interesting to watch too, because the community, I think, definitely continues to change, and we have to continue to reimagine how we interact with each other. But I do think like those are some specific ways you can make an opportunity for people to connect in a meaningful way. Because if I was to give one other like hack that I think that's like important to consider is, different people are going to disclose and connect at a different rate that it feels appropriate to them. And if you try to go too deep too soon, or ever, depending on the person, and it's just not the right fit, it could like really backfire, right? So I think you have to, so the first name game questions, like, in regular MFF classes, we're purposely like, and beginning of Snatch, it's things like, what's your hometown? Like, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream and that kind of stuff. Some of our more advanced programs, we get into things where it's like, tell me about, who's the greatest mentor in your life and why.
Right. You're getting
right?
deeper.
But again, you have to kind of like earn the right, I think, to get there. And quite frankly, not every ninja wants to go there, right? Because we have ninjas that are like, you know what, I just want to get jacked. I'm jacked. Like, let's cut this and let me go lift some weights.
Right.
And that's cool too, right? You know, like kind of one of our mottos is like, everything here is optional, right? Like the ninja can't do anything wrong. We're happy to engage with them how they want to engage. And, I think that makes it safe. You got to be kind of on their agenda,
Right.
And like, that's everything too. Is like, I get it. It's like, listen, you're paying me to like, like lose 5 pounds. Like I get that, right? I'm not going to make you talk about the struggles in your marriage, right? Like it is entirely appropriate for you just to work out here. And that's great too. And I still like you. But for the people that are looking for a community, if they live in New York and they're either open to it or they're searching for some space to really like be their real self and like be messy and be like, bring their full self in a safe space so they can explore like really how they're feeling about not just fitness, but life. I'm very satisfied. I think that we create that too for people.
It's really powerful because it's in every city that you have this, but in New York, especially where people are coming from all over without a community and they're coming to a place where, they're trying to fit in and find a life and find an open community like that provides a lot. And then there's people, right, like you said, there's people that are here. I just want to get a good workout in, but to have that option, it's great.
Totally.
And now you've had rapid growth. What you have 2 locations. Yeah. And what's do you see into the future of this? Or are you just kind of like going, month to month, year, going on as it comes and deciding as you go? Or do you have kind of plans maybe to broaden it out or to release material to help people outside New York? What do you think in the future?
Well, we have an online platform called mybroadwaybody.com, which is in fact like Mark Fisher Fitness online. And that has been pretty successful for us for people that are looking to be a part of the Mark Fisher Fitness community but don't live in New York City.
Right.
I think it's one of the plans for this year is like do a deep dive into that and see how we can really like grow that and take that to the next level.
Okay.
I think the physical brick and mortar Mark Fisher Fitness, we are open to other locations, but the crude fact of the matter is that New York City for any brick and mortar facility it's just a real estate game. Yeah. So if you don't structure the lease right, you're going to take a bath, you're underwater. Manhattan particularly is problematic because there are national chains that are willing to come in and just bleed $50,000 a month for the opportunity to have a flagship. Which makes it tough for a little cat like Mark Fisher Fitness. So, I think if the right opportunity came its way, I think that would be cool. But I know the thing that my business partner and I at this point, we do a lot of like writing on like business actually at businessforunicorns.com. I think what will happen is MFF will continue to be this like petri dish where we're growing and learning and experimenting and trying to just always keep making this place better. And then outside of that, I think my business partner and I will hope to find opportunities to just continue to share that with the world through speaking and coaching and consulting.
Which is fantastic. You're reaching out and you're making your impact circle is growing. It just in different facets. So it's
totally. And it's, I have to say it was an interesting thing too, because we, when I started doing that, I definitely a little like, should I be doing this? Should I just like stay at MFF? And, it was really, I feel lucky that like, I think Michael particularly like helped me see it. And I think all of us for the team, it's like, we do think we're doing a different thing here. And we do think it's a lot more than capes and unicorns.
Right.
And I think we all feel certain like obligation to, just humbly and generously share, I think some of the things that have led to really explosive, not just business growth, but like impact in people's lives.
Right.
And I think the fitness industry is a really wonderful place. And I think it is ready and fertile for I think a more like robust and diverse voices so that we can like help more people.
Absolutely.
And we're, I'll be the first to say like, I'm not perfect. We're definitely not perfect by any means, by any stretch. And we're always on our own journey of getting better. But I do think there's some things that we can share. And I think, we, at this point, if what we do is just about inside 2 buildings in New York City, that's too small of a game, I think, for what this team of people wants to affect.
Absolutely. That's why I asked, because this is unique. It's powerful. Not just it goes beyond fitness and nutrition. It goes beyond that too. And that's why I asked, because I think that's pretty. I'm really glad that you are doing that. You are branching out and helping other people. Maybe look at industries different and looking at ways they can help people in a different way.
Yeah, because it's interesting. The skills of, coaching a client for fitness and nutrition are not dissimilar to coaching team members, and so much of the work we've done internally, why I think our culture, again, 100% not perfect, but why I think we've had the success at a place like MFF is because I think we just talk about the stuff that makes each other crazy, more often than other places. Do you know what I mean? And it's not that we never gossip or have problems with each other, but we really from day one focused on the point of Mark Fisher Fitness is for us all to become the best human beings we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that can apply to a lot of industries.
Absolutely. Now, just because we have Too Busy to Eat is the show, I just want to go back real quick and say, hey, there's somebody listening that is wanting to, they're in Montana or they're somewhere, and what steps would you give somebody that's, in that busy lifestyle that maybe, really has an adverse opinion of fitness, or what suggestions would you give to that person to get started, to take one step closer? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, the first thing I would do is the first thing I think, if I were to give one piece of advice, I think it would be to not compromise on fun and community.
Right. Okay, good.
Because I think, it can be human nature sometimes to think we're going to struggle through and do optimal. So for instance, people trying to eat the perfect diet instead of eating food that's good that they like.
Right.
Fitness can be the same thing. And admittedly, I know it's definitely tougher if you're in a more rural market. You might not have as many options for certainly in-person stuff. But thankfully, due to the internet, I think you can find ways of moving and fit and being fit that you actually enjoy the process, and ideally doing it with other people. Because we've seen very consistently for long-term sustainable change, it needs to be things that we enjoy at least to some extent, and ideally in the context of other people. It's very hard to change your behaviors on your own. So if you're in a rural place, the advantage is now for the first time, the internet, it's one of the magical things about it. I would say just be unreasonable about going out there and making sure that it's the right fit for you. It's the right community, however you find it in person or not. Because like I said, I think that's where a lot of people sometimes lose the thread, is we try to do what we think is ideal instead of doing actually what we like or kind of enjoyable.
Absolutely. Right. Okay. That's sustainability. I mean, sustainability is what you want over long term.
Yeah.
I mean, well, a lot of people, what they do, they want to get in shape. They go out and start running, even if they hate running. Well, that doesn't last very long.
It's so wonderful. Yeah. It comes from such a beautiful place, and I would and I did that myself. So I have great sympathy for it.
Yeah.
So I would just love to stand for people, knowing that it's okay to be picky about what type of things you like, and take your time, date different modalities. I certainly like, what I do from a fitness perspective, but I'm about getting people getting movement in their life, and having a relationship with their body in a society where that's not as common. And I really want to empower people to go out there and, date around, find the thing for you and find the community for you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, this was fascinating, Mark. I was looking forward to so long to be able to interview you and find out more about what you're doing. And you definitely didn't disappoint. This is fascinating what you're doing. I wish you the best, because I know great things are going to be coming from you, and they are already. So they're going to continue. So thanks so much for coming on the show.
Much appreciated, Greg. Much appreciated.